When the American president Donald Trump declared that there is a peace process going on in Gaza, he declared the Board of Peace. And he said that several figures will be on that Board of Peace. One of the names was none other than Tony Blair. Tony Blair was a man who people were pushing to be on the Board of Peace. But now it appears that there's a slight shift. He's being dropped from the Board of Peace, according to a report in the Financial Times. Why is he being dropped from the Board of Peace? And was there any likelihood of him being on that Board of Peace? Well, we know very well that Tony Blair is a controversial figure. He has been a man who led the war in Iraq alongside George W. Bush, and he killed many people, alongside other crimes he has committed, and his participation on the side of Israel in many cases. Now, this report that came in the Financial Times spoke about a growing power when it comes to the powers or the countries who are opposing Tony Blair, primarily Turkey and Egypt. They said that they did not like Tony Blair because they viewed Tony Blair as a man who will be taking the side of Israel against Donald Trump. Now, let's talk through that for a bit. Donald Trump gave Israel everything that it needed, but the ceasefire in Gaza was orchestrated by Donald Trump and prevented Israel from continuing with the genocide and ethnic cleansing on a full scale. And it also forced Benjamin Netanyahu to go into a ceasefire agreement, albeit a very fragile ceasefire agreement that Israel breached many times. That happened when Donald Trump realized that there is something that he can play with when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, particularly the amnesty case of Benjamin Netanyahu. He knew that Benjamin Netanyahu is desperately looking to get rid of this court case or multiple cases against him, primarily cases 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, that relate to corruption, security breaches, and other elements as well, including bribery and influence on the Israeli mainstream media and multiple websites in Israel. Tony Blair, according to several reports, was taking the side of Israel. We know that he's a consultant and advisor to several Arab regimes, and we know very well that he has been in direct and intensive talks with the Israelis to push for their agenda in what is called as the day after. Now, the fact that FT's report is confirming that some of the influence is coming from Arab and Muslim countries against this is showing something that has been evident for a while now. Donald Trump indeed has good relations with multiple Arab and Muslim countries, and Israel does not like the fact that, well, he sided with Qatar, for example, after Israel attacked it, and forced Benjamin Netanyahu to have this apology call to Qatar when he went and visited the White House and sat with Donald Trump. Tony Blair was supposed to be a man who implements the Israeli agenda when it comes to not only the Board of Peace, but the implementation of the ceasefire on the ground. Firstly, there is an exaggeration of the role of this Board of Peace, but the fact that Tony Blair is now being kicked out of this Board of Peace says that, well, the man did intend to actually do several things that were in the favor of Israel in the Board of Peace, primarily to do with the International Stabilization Force, their role in Gaza, what they're going to do exactly, and also things that relate to the disarming of the Palestinian resistance. This declaration is coming at a very sensitive period. We are supposed to get into phase 2 The American president stated that phase 2 announcement is going to happen very soon. Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu also confirmed that phase 1 is almost over and we're going with phase 2. And he also criticized or at least showed his a lack of satisfaction from the ISF, casting doubt on their ability to carry out some of their objectives, even some of their main objectives in Gaza. That was later clarified by an official from Hamas who said that they're only going to be there on the borders. They're not going to do anything against the Palestinian people or carry out any operations to disarm the Palestinian resistance. This means that, well, things aren't necessarily going the way Benjamin Netanyahu wanted them to go. If Tony Blair is going to be removed from the Board of Peace, and Tony Blair was the main man for Benjamin Netanyahu, that means the influence of the Israelis is going to reduce. And Israel is not going to be happy with that. As a matter of fact, a recent report confirmed that Israel at the moment is spying on the US forces in the command center in south of Israel that is primarily taking charge of the situation in Gaza. There were reports that they prevented Israel from conducting several operations in Gaza. Israel had to do a U-turn when it comes to certain operations, and also they allowed the entry of aid when Netanyahu said that he halted it, and it happened fairly quickly. The fact that they're spying on the American forces that are supposed to be under the control of the Board of Peace shows that they're not very satisfied with everything that comes from the American side. Now, we know very well that the relationship between the US administration and Israel is a strategic relationship. However, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be any tactical disagreements on the case. That's why Donald Trump declared that he is going to be overseeing the ceasefire agreement in Gaza directly himself. He's going to be one of the guarantors of the ceasefire agreement. Israel now is facing a huge problem, because if we're entering phase 2, a man like Tony Blair is out there trying to spy as much as possible on the US forces and the command in the south of Israel, proves that there are certain things that they're not agreeing on, and that phase 2 will be less favorable to the Israeli side once it gets implemented and declared and we enter phase 2 of the ceasefire.